For more on all of this, I'm joined on set by our international affairs and former Washington correspondent Kethevane Gorjestani. So why was this interview specifically triggering so much controversy?
Well, look, first of all, it's because of who Nick Fuentes himself is. This is someone who has in the past and repeatedly held some very controversial position, to say the least. He has denied the Holocaust. He has praised Hitler many times. He has expressed deeply racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, misogynistic views. And I'll just give you one example from his own podcast, America First, from back in March, when he said the following. He said, "Jews are running a society. Women need to shut the F up. Blacks need to be jailed for the most part, and we would live in paradise. It's that simple." This is someone who hasn't hidden these position. During the interview itself, he called for an exclusive pro-white Christian movement in America. He railed against what he called organized Jewry that he said was a threat to the existence of the United States. The other reason why it was so controversial is that, given his positions, it was a very complacent, very friendly interview that Tucker Carlson did. And Tucker Carlson, a former Fox News pundit and presenter, is known to be pretty tough, even on fellow conservatives. And so the interview became very quickly a top-viewed episode for Tucker Carlson on YouTube, nearly 6 million views already, and quickly drew the ire of some in the conservative movement, from Republicans on the Hill like Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, to right-wing figures on podcasts and on social media like Ben Shapiro. They all went both after Fuentes for his comments and also after Carlson for sort of normalizing this trash, as Ben Shapiro put it, and pushed Maga to actually take sides between what happened on Carlson's show and what they believe was two extreme views of Fuentes.
Now, so far, though, there's been little reaction out of the White House and out of Donald Trump, who's had him down to Mar-a-Lago in the past.
Absolutely. And that's because the White House and MAGA world more broadly is pretty uneasy with Nick Fuentes and what he represents. Ted Cruz, again, he called this an existential crisis within the party. First of all, there's the question of how extreme is too extreme for the MAGA movement. How do you draw the line when a key part of your party is to talk about freedom of speech and fighting against cancel culture? That's one part. The second part is that Nick Fuentes is basically a little bit of a beast of their own creation. This second term for Donald Trump has been really focused on this idea of white Christian nationalism in the United States, and Fuentes is simply an extreme version, if you will, of MAGA's new definition of what American identity is. They see it as a white identity, a Christian identity, and there is also within Nick Fuentes the symbol and the latest example of the rise of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel views within the Republican Party, within the right, a party that used to be staunchly across the board pro-Israel. Ted Cruz, again himself, saying that in the last 6 months, I've seen more anti-Semitism on the right than I have in my entire life, because this is not an isolated incident or a figure. A few weeks ago, if you remember, there was that scandal among top young Republicans when their group chat was leaked, and there were plenty of anti-Semitic comments in there, racist comments. Another close advisor to Donald Trump, he had to withdraw his nomination because in one text he said himself that he had a Nazi streak. Why is it problematic for the MAGA movement and for Donald Trump? Well, because they represent a very large chunk of the MAGA base. And so the Republicans as a whole do not want to completely cut themselves off from this group of people that Nick Fuentes represents.
Yeah, well, this is something that's going to, I think, continue to play out. Thank you very much for joining us. That's France 24's International Affairs Editor, Kethevane Gorjestani.